me reassure you, you're not alone. There are so many people out there who feel this way. And I really think it's a natural part of growth. Whenever you set a stretch goal that is challenging you to be more than you are and to really grow and make things happen, that fear seems to set in. So I want to talk a little bit about fear today and how we can work through that. And let me start first by just talking about our brain and its power to be used as an instrument for us. So when we think of our brain, we think of programming, right? We program our brain to do many, many things. And brains can be set up kind of like your spam filter in your email. Since they can take in about 1 out of 100 stimuli, you're not always getting all of the information. That's a good thing, right? Because it helps us stay focused on the things that we're really wanting to pay attention to. The sad thing about that is sometimes we miss things that we really would like to see, but because our filters are screening that, we don't see opportunities often that are even in front of us. So I want to talk a little bit about how this relates to fear. When we feel fear, what do we feel? What kind of feelings start to come up for us? So maybe some of the things that I mentioned in the beginning, right? Disappointment, feeling overwhelmed, feeling discouraged, maybe even feeling tired. There might be an incentive to want to quit or stop doing something just so you don't have to feel that fear anymore, right? It's not a comfortable feeling. We'll put it that way. I like to think of it as an analogy of a ship that you're out in the middle of the ocean. You may feel all alone, unsupported, and you have waves coming in at you from every side. And all you can think of is, get me out of this ocean, right? But the waves are still there. You have a wave of discouragement, a wave of discontentment, a wave of absolute terror sometimes. And that can really get the better of you if you let it. So I'm going to tell you, using that analogy of a ship, I have a friend who worked for the Navy as a sea captain and is now retired, but has since recounted his days being out in the ocean, which were many. And it was part of his job to learn how to navigate those waves that would inevitably come and try to topple his ship over. And he told me something that I've always remembered, and that is the way that he would steer himself out of those waves would be to directly steer his ship into the very biggest wave of all of them and aim for that one and go right front and center through that wave. And I thought about how perfect that is for us when we are looking at our fear. How can we steer clear and just go right through? Because if we sit with it, it stays with us, right? And it can actually topple us over and bring us down to the depths of the sea. We don't want that. So the best thing we can do is really face our fear and find a way that we can work around it. What does fear stand for anyway? It's false expectation appearing real. So there are things that are really not there in reality. They're there in our minds, and they're there in our brain filter system. So we really want to make sure that we change out that filter. So what can we do? Let's talk about fear a little bit more as if we're kind of balancing an equation. So on one side, you would have the fear of loss, and on the other side, you have the desire for gain. Now, the desire for gain can be a tremendous thing, right? For all of the negative things that we think about with fear, what do we think about when we think about desire for gain? All kinds of possibility, optimism, energy, enthusiasm, surprise, good times, right? Contentment, peace, all of the positive things. So when we are on the fear side, our job really is to start putting our pieces over on to the fear of gain side. And I'm going to help you do that a little bit. So let's talk first about your fear. Okay, so what does fear do for you? How does it serve you? We think that by being afraid that somehow we are supporting ourselves and helping ourselves. But what really we're trying to do is stay where we are, where we're comfortable, because we don't want to lose more. But what happens when you stay where you are? You don't gain either, right? You stay where you are. So the real question is, do you want to stay there? And what do you have to lose by moving to the other side? If you move to the side of faith or desire for gain, what are you giving up here, right? What is the very worst thing that can happen if you are if you try to move over to the fear of gain side, right? The very worst thing that can happen is that you stay where you are. You don't have any enrollments, you don't progress. Yeah, maybe you disappoint your team members. You're not going to die. You're not going to go to the depths of the sea. The worst thing that can happen is that you're no worse off than you are right now. That's not so bad, right? That's not so bad. So, okay, that might be a argument on the side of fear of gain. What do you get if you're on the fear of gain side? What if you get one enrollment? That's one enrollment more than what you had when you started, right? And maybe that one enrollment ends up being your elephant leg leader. Who knows, right? That could be fabulous to have one enrollment. Now, one enrollment is not really going to be enough to excite you to get you to really live in that field of desire for gain. So that's why we have this stretch goal to get you to 18 enrollments. We know it's something you can do because we've seen it done. We know it's possible. And half the time it's just believing that something's possible helps us shift that filter in the right direction so that we see the opportunity when it's before us. So 18 is possible. I submit to you that you can go higher, that goal is reasonable, but it's not as high as people have gone in any given month. So we wanted to set the filter high enough that you would really stretch and that you would take this as an opportunity to grow out of that fear of loss mode and move into that desire for gain in full purpose and full faith that you can do what you set out to do. And when you do that, when you set stretch goals for yourself, what you're doing is you're opening up that filtration system in your brain. You're telling your brain that you want to look for opportunity. And you want to look for things that are going to get you out of your comfort zone so that those filters open and you see opportunity that you didn't see before. It's really an amazing thing how it works. Now, you may be saying, okay, that's great, I get it. I want to be on the fear. I don't want to be on the fear of loss. I want to be on the desire for gain. I want to have faith in myself and I want to grow. I don't want to stay stuck where I am. That's all good and dandy, but how am I going to get my 18 enrollments? So now let's talk about that. So Callie, a couple of days ago, posted a wonderful article on her own personal experience of how she kind of eats those elephants, right? And we always talk about breaking them down into bite-sized chunks. So that's what she did. She had to move across country by herself, and she was even pregnant. But rather than let that sink her ship, she set out to find a way to do it in small chunks. And what she did was she determined that she needed about 60 boxes packed in a given month. And she did the math. She divided that up by days and knew that she needed to pack 2 boxes a day to reach her goal. And she did that. If she missed one day, then she made it up another, but she made sure that she, on average, packed those 2 boxes every day. And by the end of the day, the end of the month, she was good. She wasn't stressed or worried or anything. And I'm going to tell you that that is the #1 cure to fear, is action. Doing something every day is going to help you feel like you are working purposefully towards your goal. And when you're doing successful action, you're going to find success. Success plus success does not equal failure. So if you can break down your job to a daily routine that is successful, inspired action, success plus success equals success. And that will be inevitable. So that fear will slowly dwindle away and you will be firmly planted on the faith side, on the desire for gain side. So what can you do now? If you need 18 enrollments in a month, how many do you need in 2 weeks? That's 9, right? You break that down again, that's about 4 or 5 per week. So what do you need to do today to get 4 enrollments this week? How many people do you need to reach? What's your average? You know, doTERRA set a goal to have at least 2 contacts a day. We want to stretch a little bit beyond that. So how many contacts would that make? At least 4, right? Maybe 6. Maybe you want to up that a little bit more. But think about the number of contacts and how many mentor calls does that work out for you to be. If you're doing that, if you're connecting with people, that's a successful habit. And those are the things that we're trying to encourage you to do to stretch over to the side of growth and opportunity improvement and get your brain filters in place for success. Okay, that's it. That's all it is. What's the one thing that you can do today such that everything else is made easier by you doing it. And do that one thing, and you'll be successful. And you'll move away from those fear-based thoughts into those faith-based thoughts, where that is where the growth and the cherry picking come. Thank you so much for participating. I know you can do this. I wish you the best of luck. And you won't need luck, right? Because you're working forward with inspired action. So good work, and keep on keeping on.